Good.
Didn't have that back in my day.
Charlie, 10th?
What do we have going? Where's my thing here? Their movement scheduled at 9:40, so 10, we wouldn't be done with them by 10. I think we do it before, because I don't think they're gonna be here early.
So we'll do it at,
After Rhonda, before the application thing.
okay, 9:30.
So we're gonna amend the agenda? Okay.
To what?
We need a closed session.
At what time?
It'll go after Rhonda's, presentation.
Am I out of that?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
And we're up and streaming whenever we wanna get started.
Are we ready to start?
Yeah, we can start.
Let's go.
You got a plan. You're good? Yep. Do I start the pledge?
Yeah, Mr. Sanchez, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The ethics statement for the Charter School Advisory Board. Board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of the advisory board. Does any member of the advisory board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? I will need to recuse from movement.
I would need to recuse from the closed session.
Thank you. If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring that matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be our duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. The mission of the Charter School Advisory Board. The Charter Schools Advisory Board works to ensure the existence of high-quality charter schools in North Carolina. Okay, so there's a modification to the agenda. We need to vote on the modification to the agenda. The modification would be that we are adding a closed session at 9:30. And following the closed session, we then will follow the rest of the agenda as written. Can I get a motion to accept the change in the agenda?
I move that we accept the modified agenda.
Second it.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Okay. So we have the opportunity this morning to hear from Rhonda Dillingham, who is from the North Carolina Association of Public Charter Schools, who supports all of us. And she has a special presentation this morning. Good morning, Rhonda. How are you?
I'm fine. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. As you know, in North Carolina, we're celebrating 25 years of public charter school law dating back to 1996. And back in June, the association participated in the celebration in Raleigh with the legislature and the press conference, and that was great. We had lots of schools, lots of representation there that day. But the association wanted to go a step further, and we wanted to find a way to shine a light on the reason why we all do this work, why you serve on the CSAB, why you run schools, and why I advocate for our schools through the association, and that is the students. So we brainstormed a little bit, and we came up with an idea to invite all the students in every charter school in the state to participate in our 25th anniversary art contest. We rolled that out last spring to all the schools, and we asked the students to tell us in their art pieces what their schools meant to them. We got quite a few submissions, And it was difficult for the committee to make their selections, but they did finally make their selections. And I had the pleasure of visiting each of the winning schools to surprise these students, because none of them knew ahead of time that they had actually won the contest. So we divided it up into 4 categories: K2, 3-5, 6-8, and 9-12. So I just want to share with you a little bit through our PowerPoint the pieces that were submitted by the winning students. The first one comes from a young lady named Tegan, and she is in the K2 category.
Really good.
She is from the Classical Charter School of Leland, and I just visited them on Friday. And her art teacher is Mr. LaFave. Now, in her piece, now, I couldn't really get her to talk a whole lot, but that's okay. I was just like her when I was that age too. But I do see from her piece that she highlights her 2 teachers that she loves so much, and then over on the right-hand side you can see her, and she really loves math, and so this highlights how in her school she gets to do something that she really loves, and that's Tegan from Classical Charter School of Leland. And then in the next category, in the K5, the 3-5 category, we have a young lady, Maya, from the Expedition School in Hillsborough, and her art teacher is Ms. Roney. Now, this is a picture, but actually the piece itself is a diorama. And what the young lady is portraying in her diorama is how much fun she has at school, and she posed it in front of the front door of the school. And the reason she did that is because she wanted to convey the idea that her school is open and that she feels welcome there every day. The next category was grades 6 through 8, and the winner there is a young lady, Azaria. That school is Invest Collegiate Transform, and her teacher is Ms. Stanton. If you've ever visited Invest Collegiate Transform, you know whenever you're in the building, they have this huge bank of windows, and when you look out, you can see that skyline of Charlotte, which I think is just beautiful. I'm always impressed every time I go there. What this young lady is portraying in her piece is that her school allows her to dream, and her dreams are big, just like the skyline of Charlotte. And so every day she's at school, she sees that skyline, and it inspires her.
If you see that building, the one with that has all the colors on it,
Mm-hmm.
that actually is a mural that's painted on the side of that building, and that is what it looks like.
Yeah, I know. You can tell she put a lot of effort into it, and it really is impressive. The next category, the final one, is grades 9-12, and this young lady attends Piedmont Community Charter School in Gastonia, and Ms. Birch is her art teacher. I only wish I had this kind of talent because she was able in her piece to put the numbers 25 in there. If you look closely, you can see it. But what I really love about it is she highlighted what her school means to her. And you'll see words on the sides like art and theater and dance. These are the things that she loves and her school allows her to do. And that's what makes her school special to Anne. Our contest was sponsored by Little Architecture, so I would like to thank them for their participation and for sponsoring the contest. Each student won a check for $25 and a certificate, and then each school received a check for their art departments in the amount of $250. We've had each piece professionally matted and framed, and I'll just show you one. This is how they turned out, all 4 pieces. And Dave has graciously agreed to display these 4 framed pieces in DPI in celebration of the 25th anniversary of charter school law in North Carolina. So thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Rhonda gonna be able to present that at the state board meeting?
Yes.
I really think that's worth showing at state board.
Mhm.
Well, I'm always at them, so that would be just fine. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I think the only person I didn't give a button to is Dave and Dr. Bullard. But we have these buttons that say 25 years of charter schools. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Andrew.
Rhonda.
Good job.
How nice, that was really nice.
Yes.
Okay, so Dave, is Allison available? What do we wanna do?
We're confirming that right now, so.
Do we wanna take a break, or what do we want, or do we wanna go, you wanna do the director's updates now?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
It has been a while since I've given one of these, and I didn't want to go way back to April, so I tried to make it fairly brief. As far as the State Board of Ed updates, they did approve the NC Access annual report. And if there's any member on CSAP right now that hasn't got a hard copy of that, if you let me know, we'll get it to you before you leave, okay? They also did uphold the State Board of Ed Appeals Committee decision not to allow Lane Reddick or CE to move to open. And they did approve the new charter application timeline for 2022-23. And obviously you were a big part of designing that timeline, and we will continue to keep you updated because it is going to be some duplication once we do institute that. As far as OCS updates, our renewal cohorts, in cohort 1 is ones that we will be voting on, making recommendations this year. There's 27 schools, and then in cohort 2, which starts their first year of the renewal process, there's 41 in that recycle. The renewal visits have started back up. Dr. Cooper and her team are trying to do as many in person as possible. The schools that don't want to be in person, we are doing virtual. And we also will be beginning our risk assessment visits this month to low-performing schools and any other school that might have some sort of issue that we need to look at. I've conducted 15 TEFRA bond finance hearings in the last 3 months. And I did a board training at Union Academy back in July. Had the pleasure of attending Westlake Prep's ribbon cutting a couple weeks ago. That was very exciting. We are beginning to start back our office hours on Mondays. And this is an opportunity, I think we meet from 11:30 to 12:30. It's an opportunity for leaders to just get on the phone, talk to each other, and we try to have somebody from the department that gives some sort of webinar. And I think our first one is about science of reading training. We're excited about that. And obviously Senate Bill 654 has passed, which gives charters the ability to offer a virtual option and the ability to go remote if they need to. We're trying to give guidance, clear and concise, accurate guidance to all of our schools, and we'll be sending something out again today in our newsletter. If you notice, our newsletter has moved from Fridays to Tuesdays.
So much
That
better.
was by,
So much better.
we had a lot of people ask for that, and we're actually, Joseph, when he does that, does a great job putting it out, and he's actually saying we're getting more clicks on it than we have in the past, so that's great news. And then just to close, the Wells Fargo Cup standings for athletics in North Carolina, this is the top schools in the state as far as how many championships they've won, where they placed. In the 1A division, 6 out of the top 10 schools in 1A are charter schools. And want to congratulate Pine Lake Prep for winning the 1A Cup. That's very impressive. And because of that success, most of these schools have been bumped up to 2A.
I was gonna
for this
say,
year.
that may or may not have been in their best
Right.
interest.
So again, that's a brief report, and I really appreciate all that the relationship that our office has with CSAB and the way we work together. So thank you very much. If you'd like to take a break till we hear from.
Yeah, okay, let's plan on a break till 9:30, and hopefully by that time we will have heard from Allison.
Okay. Thank you.
Keep that.
Remember, your mic's alive for a little while.
Melanie, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Or are we gonna do this other thing now?
I think we try to stay on schedule.
Okay, I'm recused,
You want to
from
follow the
movement,
agenda?
because they are our friends. And, so, Lynn, you're
So,
gonna have to lead.
Melanie, do you want to get up and just kind of talk through the process first, please?
Okay. Good morning, Melanie Rackley with the Office of Charter Schools. Before we get started today, we're just gonna kind of recap on the general process as it relates to our timeline today, our 60-minute interview, the breakdown of that. We will begin each application today with an OCS 5-minute introduction. I'll introduce each school. Then that board will have the opportunity to make their introduction and their opening statements, followed by a 25-minute full discussion with CSAB. Applicant board will then be provided 10 minutes to make their closing statement, and then you all will do a full deliberation for 10 minutes, so rounding out that full hour. Also want to remind you all of the second round parameters. So should there be a decision to grant a second round to any of the applicant boards, the committee lead is responsible for generating those questions and then disseminating them out to their fellow committee members. Collecting those information from their fellow committee members, and then OCS will actually disseminate those out. So to the applicant. The applicant will then have 10 calendar days to actually respond to any of those outstanding questions that CSAP has for you. And then moving into the actual second round interview process, it's condensed in that it's a 45-minute timeline. You guys have an abbreviated opening statement, and then CSAP, you all will deliberate for 25 minutes. You guys will have a 5-minute closing statement, and then your vote would be in 10 minutes. So we have that condensed for 45 minutes if second round is an option that is considered for our applicants. So without further ado, we can move on into our first application for today, being Movement School Southwest. Movement School Southwest is in the southwest quadrant of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County. They propose in year 1 to service kindergarten through grades 1 with 250 students. Moving into year 2 with grades K2, 360 students. Year 3 expanding to grades K through grade 3 with 460 students. Year 4, kindergarten to grade 4 with 555 students. And then year 5, they will be at capacity with grades K through 5, serving 645 students. Movement School Southwest will participate in the National School Lunch Program. They will offer bus transportation to their student population. They will not utilize a weighted lottery in their enrollment and admission processes. They do have a facility at 150 I-Verified Drive in Charlotte. They are not a repeat applicant in that they actually have a network of schools at Eastland and then Freedom Drive. So they are also not using the services of an EMO. Their application was deemed complete at submission. So on our next slide, we actually have the map of zip code 28217. You'll see those schools that actually, the LEA district schools that are there in green surrounding, and there's actually, I apologize, I can't see those. Those are all LEA schools there. Doesn't appear that Metro Lina there is kind of covered up. Is the only charter school within that 5-mile radius. So I will go ahead and turn it over to the board. Mr. Hurley, if you want to come up.
Well, good afternoon. It is an honor to get to come before this board and share more about Movement School Southwest and what we plan to do within the Charlotte community. My name is Tim Hurley. I have the privilege of serving as the board chair for Movement Schools. I've spent my career in education. Some kids describe themselves as Army brats, where they moved around. I was a school brat. So my mother was a teacher and principal her whole career. I grew up in Mississippi, graduated from Mississippi Public Schools, and right out of college went in to teach in Mississippi through the Teach for America program. That established my love and passion for education. I believe every child should have the opportunity to receive an excellent education. I went to law school focusing on law and education, spent 3 years to learn. I didn't think it was as much about the laws as about the quality of the teachers and principals and schools that we were bringing into the state. I've worked here in North Carolina for over 10 years, leading the Teach for America program in Charlotte, then overseeing the program for North Carolina and South Carolina. And in that, was proud to partner with both states to recruit excellent teachers into our schools. And for the last 5 years, I've served as the director of the Movement Foundation, working to build outstanding charter schools to serve low-income students in Charlotte. I'm joined by two of our board members, Carrie Ann T. Thomas. She goes by KTT for short. We are honored to have her join us first as a board member. She's actually now transitioned to being the CEO of Movement Schools. So this will be one of her last meetings as a board member. She'll be stepping into a non-voting role. But KTT has served as a teacher, academic dean, principal, and regional superintendent for the Achievement First Charter School Network in New York and Connecticut, which is one of the highest performing charter networks serving low-income students in the nation. And we were so excited to have her step on board with us. As principal, she led the strongest turnaround in the history of her network, leading her school to become the #1 elementary school in Hartford, Connecticut. She's also a professor with the Relay Graduate School of Education, which is a teacher training program that we have learned a great deal from. I'm also joined by Garrett McNeil. He is a director with the Movement Foundation. He oversees all of our construction work. So his job, as I shared, is to bring things in on time and under budget. He has overseen the construction of Movement for the last 5 years. He's developed over 300,000 square feet of space and managed over $60 million in the acquisition and redevelopment of the process. And we're excited to have him here with us today, given that this is an accelerated application and we know the importance of having our building come on time, ready to serve our students. And so with that, I'm so excited to share about the Movement School story and the Movement School Southwest story. So Movement School on Freedom Drive launched 5 years ago, inspired by Sugar Creek and other charters here serving students well. We launched K2 on Freedom Drive. Now 5 years later, we're grades K through 6. We've just opened up our middle school, and we're very proud of the academic results we've achieved with our students, despite the challenges of COVID. In addition to there being a school on Freedom Drive, we've also seen community development happen around Freedom Drive. We've seen 180 units of affordable housing go in next door to the school that the Movement Foundation helped donate the land to build. We've seen a Movement Wellness Center, which is a medical clinic with 2 full-time doctors serving patients with no insurance or limited insurance. And that's gone in down the street from the school. We've seen the Ophelia Garman Brown Community Center serving the community that's actually gone in adjacent to the middle school on Freedom Drive. And so our #1 goal is we want to build amazing schools to serve students, but 2, we want to invest in the neighborhoods and the communities where we're located. So with that, I want to share about our vision for Movement School Southwest. For folks who live in Charlotte, it's often described as a crescent of poverty and then a wedge of affluence in South Charlotte. And so along this crescent of poverty is where most of our working class and low-income families live. And right now there are charter schools serving, I'd say, 3/4 of this crescent of poverty. On the east side, there's Movement Eastland, there's KIPP, there's Sugar Creek to the north, there's Movement School Freedom serving to the west, and our desire is 8 miles to the south to launch Movement School Southwest to complete the service of this crescent of poverty in Charlotte. We found that proximity matters for our families. 80% of our families live within 3 miles of the school. And so to plant 8 miles south gives an opportunity for those families to access a charter school focused on serving low-income students. This area in Charlotte is made up of working class families and families in poverty. It is rapidly growing. The school that's closest to our proposed location grew by 15% in 2019, and it's at 122% of capacity. So the school's growing and already over capacity. The schools in this area, they also have room for academic growth. Pre-COVID, the proficiency average for the schools surrounding Movement School Southwest was 37%. After COVID, the proficiency level was 14%. By comparison, pre-COVID, Movement Freedom's average was 49%, so 12% higher. After COVID, we were at 26%, so 12% higher. There's also a need for accessibility for charter schools in Charlotte. While there are many charter schools in Charlotte, there are only 8 schools that offer both bus transportation and access to the USDA lunch program. And we believe that to effectively serve families in poverty, both of those are critical. 4 of those schools are the ones I mentioned, the 2 movement schools, KIPP and Sugar Creek. There's no school within our attendance zone that's providing right now both the lunch and the bus transportation. At a larger level, there's a lot of room for growth in charters in Mecklenburg County. I know that may sound different than what we expect, but if you look at the 50 largest LEAs, so Dallas, New York, Charlotte, Charlotte is 47th out of 50 for the percentage of students who are enrolled in charter schools. So only 8% of students in CMS currently attend a charter versus 22% for the average of those top 50 LEAs. So we think there's a lot of room to continue to serve families in Mecklenburg, especially to serve families from low-income backgrounds. And so with that, I'm excited to talk about what we actually bring and what we can offer to these families in Charlotte. As I shared, we offer full transportation, USDA lunch. We are committed to making sure there are no barriers to families enrolling in Charlotte. I do a lot with enrollment at the school. Our first year, we had one mother who wanted to apply by the deadline. I worked online with her. It wasn't working for her on her smartphone. She's like, I don't know how I'm going to apply. I said, well, look, where are you located? And she said, I work at a check cashing place across the street. I was like, well, can you come over to the office to submit your application? She's like, no, I can't do that. I can't leave the office for my breaks. I was like, how far are you? Half a mile. I was like, great. I'm going to bring the applications to you. Went over there. We slid the application under the teller window. She completed it. I brought it back up there to the school. And that's, I hope, just a sign of our desire that if you want to be at our school, we want you there. We don't want anything keeping you from being a part of it. Most importantly, we want to provide a world-class education for our students. And we believe, one, that starts with leadership. And that's why we are so excited to have KTT join us, again, first as a board member, now as our executive director, with her history of leading one of the most successful charter networks in the nation. We've also secured a principal for this school. Her name is Ashley Bays. She actually grew up in Charlotte. She lives about a half a mile from the school, but for the last 6 years, she has worked for the Achievement First charter network in New York City. She's been a principal for 2 of those years, and she's worked directly with KTT. So we're so excited to have a proven principal coming out of a highly effective network who is also local to this community and ready to plug in and hit the ground running from day one. We know that teaching excellence and instructional practice matters to serving our students well. And so to that end, we've partnered extensively with the Relay Graduate School of Education. We focus on having 2 teachers in each classroom to allow for a small student ratio and flexible groupings. We know that curriculum matters to serve our students well. We've invested heavily in overhauling our curriculum this last year to purchase the curriculums from the leading charter networks in serving low-income students. So these are proven curriculums that we know can help kids catch up. I'd say serving low-income students, also serving all students well, because it comes down to the same fundamentals for our students. We know that time matters for students, so we have an extended school day. We've also built in a 45-minute after-school tutoring period, and so that's in our teachers' contracts. They know they're staying till 4 o'clock, when other teachers might be doing things like professional development. Our teachers are committed to tutoring our students in small groups. We're rotating those small groups to help ones that are behind catch up. So it's not that the kid will be in tutoring the entire time, but over, say, a 6-week session, we're going to say we're going to work intensively with your child to help catch them up, get them on grade level to move forward. And finally, I would say love and passion matters. Our teachers and leaders love our students. Our principals often say, if you don't love seeing our kids outside of school and in the community as much as inside of the school, this is not the place for you. Our teachers and leaders came back 4 weeks early to prepare for this school year. So we did 4 weeks of professional development before starting this school year to get ready to serve our students well after COVID. And lastly, I'd say, I see it as a parent. My own students are second graders at Movement School Eastland. It's their 2nd year there. And what I appreciate the most is we have highly skilled teachers in an environment that's not going to let them fall through the cracks, but also who love my students and my children deeply. So we're so excited to bring this application before you, and I'm excited to take any questions from the board.
Thank you, Mr. Hurley. I appreciate your introduction there, and I appreciate you coming out this morning. And so right now, we're going to go ahead and deliberate amongst the advisory board and specifically the policy committee and come up with some questions. We may ask you to come to the mic at that point. We may wait till we deliberate all the questions and ask you to come up at that point. The outcome today that we would anticipate is one, we would either move forward directly to the SBE today, or move forward to a second round, or possibly decide not to move forward. As we found out yesterday, 25 minutes goes very fast. So I would recommend that when you do come up to the mic to be very thorough, but also very concise in your responses. So to start out, I guess some of my questions would be really just kind of, since the main thing for a accelerated application is your facility, and I know you've given us this information on your facility, but it is not yet built. So I would like more information too on your contingency plan. And I know you had mentioned that you would move into Freedom School, but I believe that's at capacity. So again, maybe just kind of talk about what that would look like, because I'm not sure how you would be able to move, just how you would move 210 students into that facility that is at capacity. On the education plan, again, just kind of really talk about, I know you had mentioned that you purchased a proven curriculum this year for your other movement schools, and how would that be implemented in this school? And just, again, speaking of your test scores, yes, those look well when compared to the schools in the area, but again, just kind of address your test scores because you need to be compared to the LEA and where those are at. Also, you mentioned the aftercare program in pre-K in your application, and I didn't see anything really kind of delving into that and how that works and where that was budgeted at. As far as, does anybody have anything else I guess you could add on the accelerated portion and the education plan before we go into governance? On governance, if you could just kind of expand and explain maybe how the Movement Foundation works, Movement Mortgage. I know some of the board members are involved with Movement Mortgage, and any conflicts of interest that may arise between those different entities and those members being on the board. Anybody have anything under governance?
Mine might have been under education, but just getting, when you grow and you grow at this speed, and I know they've just hired KTT, just a little more elaboration of the academic support and how do you support schools and help them grow, especially in a world right now where we've all taken a step back academically. And so how are you going to be able to manage that growth and support those schools in that way?
And I have one on curriculum.
Yes.
I'd like to know more about the Lavinia curriculum
Okay.
and the standard math, the national math standards testing that they're going to do, which might be in time for the SBE's EOC testing for national
Yes.
standards.
Okay, and then for finance, my biggest question is you have that $500,000 initial investment, and just kind of the terms of that. Is that going to be repaid? Is it an outright donation? And just any terms related to that. And the salaries seem to be very competitive, but then looking at the related benefits of health insurance and retirement Social Security, that does seem low in your budget comparatively. And in your transportation plan, you talk about having bus stop clusters. If you could just kind of elaborate on that, how many clusters you plan. I know you have a contract with Eagle for $110,000, so just kind of what all is entailed in that as far as how many bus stops you plan to have with that. And then also you could elaborate a little bit, there's a $45,000 non-cap equipment expenditure in years 2 through 5. Just kind of just what that represents. Does anybody have any other questions on the finance piece? Okay. Well, I'd like to turn it over back to you guys, if you could address those questions.
I
would really.
did have one other thing, not related to finance, but I'd like to know about the process of drafting this application. There's some clumsy writing, misspelled words. I wanted to know why it was submitted in that condition, where there were some copy editing issues that needed to be addressed throughout.
All right, well, I will lead with addressing most of it. I may bring in some of my board members to help add color as we go along. Yeah, so with the facilities, I know that is a big and important part of it. And so we have 2 contingency plans. So one, we're proud we've secured our facility. We've already started demolition on it. We're working with Choate and LS3P, who are 2 of the leading architects in Charlotte and construction firms. And these are the same companies we've worked with on our previous movement school project. So we have a history of knowing we can do it on schedule with them. Our first contingency is to scale back the amount of renovation we're doing at I-50 Verified. So our plan is to have it totally ready for K through 5. If we're concerned about that timetable for any reason, we would drop it back to be ready for K1 to make sure we can admit our initial students. And we think we can get that done in a matter of months. So that would be our first fallback. If for some reason something catastrophic happened to I-50 Verified, we would then go to Movement School Freedom Drive. It is not currently full because it is a middle school. It's built to hold grades 6th through 8th. Right now we only have our 6th grade there. So we know it will be full as it goes 6th, 7th, 8th, but we would put our K1 where our 7th and 8th grade would currently be located.
And that would still be on the bottom floor?
Correct. It's a 1-story building. In terms of our educational plan, our test scores, I would say with our test scores, I'm proud of where we are. I'm also nowhere near satisfied. When we look at the most recent round of test scores, so these post-COVID test scores, with our 3rd graders, we were at 36% proficiency. That's 4% off of the district average for proficiency. And we're proud of that because we are serving students who are coming in behind their district peers. It's approximately 80 to 90% students in poverty that we're serving. These 3rd graders are also the first group that we've actually had with us all the way from grades kindergarten through 3rd grade. Compared with the feeder schools where our kids are coming from, they're at 10%. So we're proud to be over 3 times that average, and we are nowhere near satisfied because we know our kids are capable of performing at the very highest levels in Charlotte. So that is where we are headed. With our upper grades, similarly, we're almost double the schools around us. We do still see a gap between us and that district average, and that's 100% what we are coming for. We've also, over the past 2 years, continued to make investments in improving our instructional program because we are growing quickly. That's part of where these investments in the new curriculum have come from. We've also hired instructors who are leading these curriculum to come and actually be on the ground helping us. So Lavinia was developed by Success Academies, one of the most successful networks in New York City. We actually have a Lavinia person who's located in Charlotte, who's in our classrooms on a weekly basis helping to support our teachers so we can add that extra support to grow. Same thing for our math curriculum. We've actually hired on-the-ground support from those people to help us grow. In terms of the aftercare and pre-K, pre-K is not part of our budget because my understanding is regulated through the Department of Health and Human Services, so we're going through that licensing part, and it's going to be run as a separate entity. So we're expecting it to break even within its own budget. It's not going to be run as part of our school. I wasn't actually aware that was an option, so that may be a place for me to do some learning. Same thing for our after.
So would that be like an NC pre-K?
Correct, yeah. And that's, we've talked, there's NC pre-K, there's also MEC pre-K, and that provides payments for families below a certain income to be able to access it, because that's our goal. We want every family to access this pre-K program.
But it would be on the same campus?
It would be on the same campus. And we've hired a director for that to help build it out, and we've already started the licensure process for that. Similarly, our after-school program, we're partnering with third parties to provide on-site aftercare service. In terms of governance, we have not been made aware of any conflicts. The money is flowing, to talk about the relationship, there's Movement Mortgage, which is a for-profit company. it has a very unique mission, which is to lead a movement of change in communities. And so when they generate their profits, they pay everybody a salary, but then the money from that, they're actually investing into a foundation, which is what I lead. So in a typical company, that money is going into the pocket of a shareholder or a sole owner who's making millions upon millions. The movement said we want to do it differently and use this to invest back into our state and our communities where folks are buying the homes. So that's where the money comes from Movement Mortgage to the Movement Foundation. The foundation pays to build these facilities. It pays the startup cost. It's also investing this $500,000 towards operating expenses. And so to your question, that's a gift. There's no repayment expectation. We know when schools start small, especially ours, K-1, as you all know, it's tough to meet that early budget. And so our goal through the Movement Foundation is let's give student or schools the upfront funding they need to get going and to be sustainable. And then the only financial arrangement is that the school leases the building from, it's an entity called Movement Resources, at a below market rate. It starts free over the first 2 years and then ramps up to $600,000, and that's where it stays and increases approximately 3% a year after that as the school grows. So the money's flowing from the foundation, investing to build the facilities and to get the school going.
Can I ask you one quick question?
Sure.
So with the foundation, what would you, do you know off the top of your head what your fund balance is right now with the foundation?
I'd say approximately $200 million to invest. And that's over a long period of time. In terms of, in terms of finance, I'm going to come back to some of the curriculum matters. In terms of finance, we've worked to keep our salaries competitive. These are also based on the actuals from our existing movement schools, so we feel like that gives us a good balance for what's realistic. With benefits, I think we have budgeted, I want to say it's 12 to 15% to benefits, which I agree we'd like to do more. It is tight, and benefits are expensive. We found that to be competitive so far, but we are working to also dial that in to give the most benefit to our teachers for what they specifically need. We're also currently shopping for other benefit plans to see if we can do any better. With the bus stops, yes, we contracted with Eagle Bus Stop. That's who we've used for our other schools, and a lot of charters use them. The number of buses increases as the school grows, and I'd say most families have a bus stop within a half mile of their house. So we go out to a 5-mile radius. I will share, I think bus service is one of our biggest challenges. Families would like to have more stops. They'd like to have it closer. When we lose families, it is very often because they say that bus stop, just doesn't work for our family. But that's the best solution that we've had right now, but we're always open and looking for better ways to serve our families. The $45,000 non-capital investment, I believe that is for smart boards and furniture going forward. We plan to purchase the furniture for a classroom as we grow. We don't just load all those costs up into the first year. In terms of the mistakes and the clumsy writing, the application, that is my fault. I did my best to edit it and submit a solid application, but over the course of the time, I clearly have made some mistakes, and that's something I'm going to work to remedy as I do future applications, and I apologize to the board for those mistakes. With our educational program, if the board is open, I'd love to allow KTT to come and speak some specifically the work we're doing with our curriculums to serve our scholars well.
Thank you.
Greetings, KTT. So specifically, there were questions around the Lavinia curriculum. So Lavinia curriculum was founded by Erin Lavinia. She was at Success Academy. She then left Success Academy and started and launched Lavinia Group. It is an ELA-based curriculum in which they do all things reading. A part of that curriculum, they also have Insights Humanities, which is a deep connection between reading and social studies. That program in particular is a project-based reading program. So students are not just reading and writing, but they're also able to show their content knowledge and understanding through various ways, which is one of the main reasons why we went with that organization, because we believe that learning needs to be hands-on in order for it to truly stick. Other aspects of the Lavinia program is that it's very inquiry driven and also a deep focus on rigorous questioning. So just in general, there's a buzz around students being able to focus more on conceptual understanding versus procedural understandings. And Lavinia's curriculum really does hone in on that. Students are able to do most of the heavy lifting as it relates to the things that they are required and asked to do versus our traditional or previously traditional I, we, you do teaching models and structures. Lavinia Group's curriculum is also very culturally relevant in terms of the text that students are reading. It is extremely diverse, very rich in literature itself. The authors are diverse authors. The text that they're able to see themselves in the text that they are reading, etc. That was also something that was incredibly important to us as we thought about which curriculum that we will go with. And then also the units are designed to just truly build content knowledge. So they're built off of each other. So unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, they all align. And that is the goal, so that again, that our students are becoming content experts and not just remote or robotic type of reading structures and strategies. Lavinia also works really hard at disrupting a single story. So as we know in literature, in history, in science, etc., there's often this one single story that is driven or one single story that is told. And Lavinia curriculum is designed to just embrace multiple perspectives and have students critically think about and form their own opinions about the topic at glance. So that's a couple of things about the Lavinia program. In terms of Success Academy, Tim mentioned that they had incredibly strong results. Just to put some numbers behind that, on average, their schools average a 92% in proficiency in ELA. So that's, again, the founders are coming from that organization.
Can you repeat that?
92% on average.
92.
Yes.
Trying to get a number.
And
No
is
problem.
Is this currently used in your other movement schools, or is this the new piece that you just implemented this past year?
Great question. So we implemented it this year across all of our movement schools. So they just started that program. So when Tim mentioned that we had training over the summertime for 4 weeks, they were getting trained on the brand new curriculum. So that also brings us into the question that was brought up around managing the growth, knowing that COVID has impacted us all. That's a great question and something that we've been thinking about continuously. We know that the COVID learning loss is incredibly real, and we need to think through ways to address that. One of the things that we've done was adjust our curriculum and implement the new curriculums that was mentioned earlier. So that's brand new to all of our schools because we're not just thinking about the Southwest location, we're thinking about how we are going to address this impact across all of the schools in our organization. In terms of managing the growth, another thing to name is that when we open up schools, at least 25% of our staff members at the brand new school is coming from schools that already exist. And our goal is to do that so that they're able to launch right away with the different programs and the different things that we put in place versus a traditional founding school in which there's that beginning struggle of learning the curriculum, learning the different methods, learning the different strategies. We're saying if at least 25% of the staff is coming from schools that are already within the movement organization, that they're going to be able to launch a lot faster. So that's also part of the managing growth question. So that was it for curriculum.
Does that satisfy you guys' questions?
Yes,
You need
it
any
does.
more further clarification? Okay. One of my biggest things that I just really want to focus on is just your growth. And I know you guys have already addressed that a little bit, but I just get concerned because the two of your schools are fairly new, and we don't really have the data yet on Movement East. And so I applaud you in wanting to move forward and helping our students, but I also want to caution you in growing too fast. And even this new curriculum, which sounds awesome, it really hasn't been proven in the other schools yet. And And so again, making too many changes too quickly and trying to spread it across too many schools, I think that can get a little overwhelming. That's just one of my observations on this. I don't know if anybody else has anything else they want to add.
I see in facilities when they were questioned what would be one of the challenges, even though they state, the answer was, since our facility is secured, requires no new construction. And since we are using the same design and construction team as our previous two schools, we are not concerned about our facilities. So I'm a little confused. Is it built, in the process of being built, or exactly what?
Yeah, thank you. That makes sense for the confusion. So when we say no new construction, what I mean is that we're not constructing a new facility from the ground up. So in other places, we've had to lay the slab and do the building, which can really delay the building process. So with this, what we mean is there is, I'd call it renovation. So there's not construction of a new building, but there is going to be extensive renovation within the building.
Renovations.
Yes, that's the best better way to say it. And just to speak to the growth, I definitely recognize the challenge with that. I also would say, as I've looked nationally, on average, the highest performing charter schools, especially serving low-income students, are networks. They're networks of schools serving low-income students. And for the pioneers in North Carolina who have done it well, they've had to do it on their own. I actually believe it is easier to serve students well within a network setting. And we're already seeing the advantages of that, where this year our teachers were training together across sites. So we are pushing to grow aggressively. I'd say two reasons for that. One, I think there's a dramatic need for it. When you see students applying to our schools and the numbers they're applying, and the difference between the results this last year in COVID of 10% proficient versus 36%, not that that's where we want to be, I agree, and we are working hard, but for my students, if I have a choice between 10% or 36%, I want families to have that option, and so we are pushing hard to make that option available. We're also trying to do it in a smart way, and that's in partnership with not only our own network, but also other schools serving low-income students. So we're excited to work with some of the other leaders here in the state to say, look, how can we all work together to advance faster? But it is, as we get to a network level, we also then can add some of those common supports across the schools. Like Lavinia, we couldn't afford that level of support for just one school. And so that's part of why I do want to get us to a scale that we can really implement in a way that I think is going to serve the best. And my eyes are wide open of just how hard it is, and that's why we're going to work to bring in all the supports we possibly can.
Ms. Kroger, I went and visited this facility, as I do all accelerated facilities, and it's a beautiful building, on a beautiful piece of property that they just have to move interior walls. So and you have both on e-board and in this package you have their construction schedule. Our office is very confident that they can meet this deadline.
Mr. Hurley, can you also, or any of the other board members, can you also address, with the accelerated application, you have to have a secured facility, but you also have to have the evidence of need. And can you please address that as far as your reasoning for doing an accelerated app?
Yeah, I would say our greatest evidence of need is one, the number of applications we've seen at Movement West, which is just, again, it's 8 miles to the north, but the bottom we're pulling from the same set of applicants. We had, let me take a look. We had 900 applications for our Movement Freedom facility in this last year. Also, within this corridor, there is no charter school that's offering bus and USDA lunch participation. And we find that is critical for making sure low-income students can access it. Third, the low performance of the schools surrounding it, we believe creates need. And then finally, those schools have grown by 7%, and the closest one is at 122% of capacity. So we think, especially with COVID, there's an urgent need for parents to be able to find a school that works for their kids. And we may not work for every child. You know, I have triplets. I say there's probably a different school that's right for each of my triplets. And I'm able to choose movement school. And so for parents, movement's not right for every parent. That's fine. We partner with our local traditional schools, but for a lot of parents, they're saying, man, movement worked for my child last year, especially in COVID. And I feel urgently to give that opportunity to parents next year.
So did you survey your parents directly in that area, or are you just going by what Freedom?
We surveyed parents. We did a new survey for this area. We had, within a week, 150 responses from parents indicating they are interested in being at this location. So we do see the need specifically in this area.
As one, what are we expecting, I guess, moving forward with regard to expansion? And is it true that high school is not something you guys are entertaining? Or?
So right now our focus is to be great in pre-K through 5th. So as we've surveyed, we want to be really good at one thing before we try to branch into other things. And so currently that is our focus. We have a middle school on Freedom Drive. That's because when we launched on Freedom, we told that community we're going to do K through 8, and we're not going to break that promise. So that's our middle school. Going forward, we're focusing on pre-K through 5. And for high school, that's not currently in our plans. We're interested in partnering with other charter schools as part of their feeder patterns through some of the agreements that are now permissible under the state law.
And with regards to middle school, are you that same type of partnering with the feeder programs, or do you expect the kids to be dispersed in many different areas after
So
fifth grade?
the kids will have the opportunity to feed into that middle school, and we have room for growth there. So that's
To your choice.
and to our middle school. It'll also be their choice, and that, I think that's part of, I'd say, with our growth too, is we believe we can grow more quickly by focusing on the K through 5 versus trying to do more. If we're successful with that, we may go beyond that. But we also know there are some good middle and high school options for our kids too.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite you and your board to do a 10-minute closing statement, and then we will deliberate.
Great. Well, I mean, I think a lot of what I've had to share, I have shared. We are, again, we've been so excited to work in the Charlotte community over the past 5 years. And the growth we've seen at Movement School, one of the things I'm most proud of is it's come from referrals from parents within the school. When we opened up our first school, a parent walked in, they said, "Oh my gosh, it actually looks like it does in the pictures." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Things never look like they do in the pictures." So if you go to Burger King, you see the Whopper up there, and then you see what you actually get. And she said, especially within the Freedom Drive community, which is an underinvested community, she said there's a lot of folks who are making promises they're not delivering on. And so what I'm proud is the first promise we've delivered on is to provide a beautiful school for their students. The second promise we are working like crazy to deliver on is to make sure that the academics within that school matches that promise. And then as that community has grown on Freedom Drive, we are working aggressively to make sure that we can meet the demand as it grows. And we feel like, again, given the roller coaster that COVID has been for all of us, the reaction we're seeing from our parents, the benefit we're seeing from our parents, the impact we're seeing on our parents because they're part of the Movement School system wants us to press even farther to expand that to more children. So we appreciate the time of the State Charter Board, and we hope to move forward in the process.
Thank you. So open it up to everyone. Comments, thoughts?
I like the sound.
Yeah.
Lead administrative assistants and teachers. Did you hear anything about RTO? Or read anything about the Ready to Open? You know I'm a huge fan of that.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what other PD they get, I still like to see RTO. in the application for the board.
They're required to participate in that.
I know, but I want to see it written that they will.
The commitment.
The commitment, yes. Okay, let's see. In writing.
In writing.
It's my understanding too, you have another app in this process that's on the regular cycle, so that would be 4 movement schools.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of growth.
Yeah, in 5 years.
Yeah, in 5 years. And especially given that movement east is, what, in year 2? It'll be. So that does give me a little chance to pause, in considering this application. And I mean, I know we need to look at it on a standalone, but also in the big picture of 2 existing schools that are fairly new and a 4th one that we'll be seeing later this year in the application process.
So along those lines, why is this one accelerated and that one is not? What's the compelling difference in need of this school versus the other one? And not to, like today's not the interview for the other one, but just as it relates to this particular school.
Certainly. Yeah, so our plan was to submit this on a regular timeline. We started working on it 2 years ago. When the date changed last year, I was not aware that the date changed. And so I called about a month after on one of the worst days of my professional career and realized we had missed the deadline because I hadn't realized it had changed. And so that's why we really started working on this 2 years ago. And so now we've had the chance to submit on an accelerated basis. And so, we do hope to continue to open another one on a regular timeline. I would say this one, we have been working on it for 2 years. We feel set up and ready to go. And so this application is our priority because we do feel ready to go, and we understand, there may be concerns about the future one, but this is the one we're most focused on. But yeah, we planned for a regular, and then as COVID happened, we missed the deadline.
So I appreciate your honesty in answering that question.
Yeah. And it was in my application too.
This one's got to have on its own merits, has to have a clear and compelling need why this needs to open next year, and it can't be because you missed the deadline.
Yep. Well, and we also think, given what we've shared of the needs with COVID, the amount of students applying to movement school, and also just the performance of our neighboring schools, I can't think of a more clear and compelling need than to give low-income students an opportunity to have a higher quality education in the face of COVID. I do not think there's any reason to delay that further. And so while I admit that mistake, I also believe I can't think of what's more clear and compelling than to serve low-income students in Charlotte well, which is what I know we can do.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I know we're in discussion. I think you can judge a group a lot based on the history, and the 2 people you heard today have an extensive history serving low-income children. They've had success in it. I do think the growth, and that's why I asked the question about what it would look like, what's the infrastructure for supporting that growth, because we grew quick, and there's a lot of hiccups, there's a lot of bumping your head, there's a lot of figuring it out. They have the resources, they have the people, they have the experience to do that, I think. I'm confident, mixed with what we heard from Dave about their confidence in the facility plan. It just gives me great confidence. I do hope that Mr. Hurley and his team consider high school, and I just think high schools around our country that serve low-income children well are very tough to find, and so I think he has the resources to consider that, and I would hope him and his board would. But I think this group has a compelling reason for opening an accelerated path. I think they have the resources to do it well. I think the need is out there, and the facility plan is sound. So I don't know if it's time to make a motion, but when it is, I would move them. I'd be willing to do it.
Anybody else have any thoughts or input along those lines? And I would agree with you, Mr. Sanchez. you guys do have a proven track record, although it is young track record. But there is a high need for serving these low-income students, and I think the area that you're moving into is very high need, and you have presented a good compelling reason. And as far as facility, yes, I would agree. I feel like you have met the criteria for accelerated application for this particular application as far as compelling need and a facility. I mean, I would like to entertain a motion. As I said, there's, you know, the three options, so if we feel this is a strong application, do we feel like we need a second interview for this, or do we want to make a recommendation that it moves to the state board?
I'm willing to make that motion. I don't know if my colleagues support that. And I just for clarification, when I say track record, knowing Mr. Hurley's experience with Teach America and what he's done prior to movement, as well as KTT with Achievement First, lets me know they're going to bring that to this young organization as they expand and get better. I would be willing to make the motion, to bypass the interview and go straight to the state board. Is that, I don't know how to frame it.
To move the application to the state board.
There we go.
I second that.
Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I, like Mr. Sanchez, appreciate your passion, your mission, the work that you're doing, and your collaborative spirit. Work in that space, we could use more collaboration, more relationships around the state to make it better, not just in Charlotte, but everywhere. And I have faith in the Movement Foundation mission that you guys will use your resources for good in a broader way, and appreciate the work you do.
I liked when they said, when he said network, you know, the networking of doing this as a group of schools, and instead of sometimes as charter leaders you feel like you're an island trying to figure all this out. So to have multiple schools and multiple leaders and teachers to pull from to get ideas, I think helps solve the issue that you may run into with growth, because you're not doing that alone, you're doing it together with people who are doing the same thing you are. So I like the words, the networking ideas.
All right, can we call for a roll call vote, please?
All right, Shelley Bowler. Aye. Todd Galpy.
Aye.
Terry Stoops.
Aye.
Lynn Kroger.
Aye.
Bruce Friend.
Aye.
Hilda Parlay.
Aye.
John Eldridge.
Aye.
And Eric Sanchez.
Aye.
All right, it passes unanimously.
Congratulations.
High school.
Well, let us know.
It's terrible, but the possibility of hoping Ernest makes Charlotte there's this, so there's a greater good.
Okay, we are ready to consider the application for Oak Hill Charter. Melanie, if you could share with us, please.
Melanie Rackley, Office of Charter Schools. Our next charter applicant, accelerated applicant is Oak Hill Charter School in Caldwell County. Oak Hill proposes to open in year one, serving grades K through 7 with 192 students. They expand in year two to serving K-8 with 216 students. They're at capacity at year two with the 216 students. Oak Hill Charter School does propose to offer food services through vendor and a reduced pricing matrix. They will provide transportation to their student body. They will not use the services of a weighted lottery. They do have an identified facility in Caldwell County. There has not been an LEA impact submitted at the time of the application. They are a repeat applicant. They did apply last January. They are not using the services of an EMO or CMO. However, there was application assistance provided by consultancy. Their application was deemed complete at the time of submission. Looking at the map, and because Caldwell County is a rural county, we've done a 10-mile radius here of the LEA schools. You'll see the proposed site in red, and then the various schools within a 10-mile radius there within zip code 28640, I believe, and we do not have any charter schools within that radius. So I will go ahead and turn it over to the Oak Hill Board. I believe Ms. McIntyre, you'll have 10 minutes to make your opening statement.
Thank you, Ms. Rackley. I would like to announce a correction in the opening description. We are offering a weighted lottery, so that is important to us, so thank you. And I'd like to thank you for allowing us to be here today. As you can tell, this is a big deal for our county. We have no charter schools anywhere within a 45-minute drive of our county and of the area where we plan to locate. So again, my name is Kelly McIntyre, and I'm the chairperson for the Board of Directors for the Oak Hill Charter School. I have 28 years of experience working with children and teens of all ages. My strengths are in recruiting and training volunteers, planning events, organization, fundraising, and partnering with parents. Currently, I'm the kids coordinator at Water Life Church. Our kids ministry serves an average of 150 children per Sunday, and we have about 100 volunteers that serve during 2 different services. I have worked with churches, the YMCA, YWCA, and the Billy Graham Training Center over the years. I also have a master's degree in church leadership with a focus in student ministry.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Smith. I'm the vice chair. I'm a mother of 3 boys, 1 in high school, 2 in middle school, all in Caldwell County. My husband and I are both in law enforcement. My husband is a patrol captain in the Lenore Police Department, and I'm a special agent with the North Carolina Department of Insurance. I've been in law enforcement for over 16 years. A lot of that was investigations. I've investigated all kinds of things to include child abuse. I'm part of the team that opened the Robin's Nest, which is the Caldwell County Advocacy Center. It's the only one in Caldwell County, where I served in the MDT as a forensic interviewer. I interviewed over 100 children ages 2 to 18 who were believed victims of physical or sexual abuse. I also served on the ICAP task force, and I am the Marine Corps Toys for Tots coordinator for Caldwell County. I've been involved in that organization for about 10 years. We serve 600 to 900 children a year, and we have a yearly budget of about $30,000 and tens of thousands of inventory of toys.
Good morning. My name is Jan Green, and I was honored to be elected to the Caldwell County Board of Commission as their first female chairperson. I served 4 years, and under my tenure, I was over a budget for 77,000 people, including DSS, Health Department, and the local district school system. I served on many boards. I also was awarded 2 governor's appointments during my tenure. I'm blessed to achieve many self-appointed goals in my life. The best one of all was working with children for the last 30 years. I'm honored to be a member of this board. This team is dedicated to giving our children the opportunity that they so deserve. I would also like to thank you for helping us to make our dream come true for these children. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. My name's John Mccrary. I'm a veteran of the United States Navy. My background is over 30 years experience in technical service and repair, and I have a 10-year-old son that's in the 5th grade. And through his educational process and helping him is what has given me the desire to want to bring a choice to our area for the families that are from there. So thank you for your time.
Good morning. My name is Jason Plowler. I am the treasurer for the Oak Hill Charter School. I am a senior administrative assistant for a fiber optic splicing company. I'm also a stay-at-home dad. Me and my wife have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. We live in Hudson. I've got 15 years of experience in accounting, 6 years in property management, and 6 years in HR, all with for-profit and nonprofit schools. I'm also a community soccer coach for Pee Wee and U12.
Good morning. I'm Charmin Frizzell, and I'm a native of Caldwell County. I have 5 adopted children, and I'm a licensed foster parent. I've been in education for 28 years in every position in the school except the custodian, and I really did that too. I've been a teacher's assistant, a teacher. I've been an instructional coach, an EC teacher. I've been an assistant principal, a principal, and now I'm a director. So there's not one aspect in the school building that I've not had the position. So my desire to be here is to help the students in Caldwell County, all children in Caldwell County, to benefit with the Oak Hill Charter School, and I appreciate your time.
Good morning. My name is Carrie Fodrell. I am married to Darren Fodrell, who has 20 plus years of experience in the education system, from being a teacher to an administrator. I'm a BSW from Appalachian State University and currently serve as the associate pastor at the Life Center, sharing dually as co-pastor and youth pastor with my husband, Darren. I'm currently on the CIS board of directors serving at Promise Youth. We believe in providing technical skills, teaching, coping skills, management skills, and part of my job in this area is to help them do that. And I'm so thankful for the opportunity to serve in this Caldwell County school system as a school social worker and an interventionist.
Morning, Board. My name is Eric Todd Wilson. I'm a 32-year retired classroom teacher for the state of North Carolina. I've taught all grades from 3 through 9, and 1 year I almost joined the special forces of teaching kindergarten at the last minute, but I was sent to middle school. I'm certified in, I have a Bachelor of Arts in Business Administration. I'm certified in 6 through 9 social studies, K-5 elementary. I have a master's in reading diagnostics for grades K through 12. Thank you.
Our board is truly excited about the opportunity we have before us. We have the possibility to bring a new and diverse option for school choice, not only to our county, but also adjacent counties such as Alexander and Catawba too. We will also be the only school of its kind in our entire area offering a comprehensive and meaningful character education program as well as a Back to Basics curriculum. Right now, the only school options our families have are the current LEA and homeschooling, and if you can afford it, there's one small private Christian school. That's it. With one of the highest unemployment rates in the state, the North Carolina Department of Commerce labels Caldwell, Alexander, Catawba, and Burke counties amongst the most economically distressed areas in North Carolina, and according to a report from April 2020. Our school plans to locate in a community in which over 60% of its students receive free and reduced lunch. Countywide proficiency for grades K-5 in math is only 59.6%, and in ELA it is only 63.4%. For our middle schools, these proficiencies drop even lower, and our parents want better. With 192 spots to fill our first year, and having already received 243 intent to enroll forms, plus 350 interested survey results, this is a good example of that desire. Additionally, because of the school budgetary issues, there has been consolidation leading to overcrowding in some schools and much larger class sizes, particularly in some middle schools, where classes are approaching 35 plus students. Also, some students are having to endure extremely long bus rides pushing close to 3 hours a day, making educational resources not as easily accessible and creating inequity. We have a tremendous amount of community support. We have partnered with a local community organization called the Oak Hill Ruetan Club on 3 barbecue fundraisers. If we were to add that in, plus the revenue from private donations, it would exceed $20,000. We have also developed a sponsorship program that outlines different levels of giving and ways to show appreciation for each. Many donors have already chosen to partner with us in that way. Through our networking with the Oak Hill Ruetan Club and the Oak Hill community, we have secured a permanent facility to call home. It was a former preschool, and we have already obtained a certificate of occupancy on it for educational purposes. We've had numerous charter school meetings, interest meetings. We have developed a list of over 500 people who want to stay connected to our charter school through updates, and we've created both a racially and professionally diverse community outreach team. It consists of about 70 people, and it is formed of both parents and supporters, all willing to volunteer their skills and their time to help open our school. Additionally, we have 6 offer letters from community organizations and local businesses willing to partner with us too. We have also gained support on multiple levels. We have support letters from our Chamber of Commerce, 2 county commissioners, Warren Daniel, our state senator, and U.S. Congresswoman Virginia Fox, whom has also made a personal visit with our board of directors. In December, during a town hall meeting sponsored by Hillsdale College, Dr. Daniel Copeland mentions that education should be the cultivation of wisdom and virtue, or what we like to call the head and the heart. Our board believes in this philosophy and is passionate about offering not just a back-to-basics curriculum, but also a comprehensive character education program in order to produce well-rounded students, as stated in our mission statement. For wisdom, we have chosen to use core knowledge. Studies like one from Bogalusa, Louisiana, have shown that core knowledge has had great success in closing achievement gaps for students. We will use Shirley Grammar as a support to core knowledge. Concepts such as the basics of grammar and writing skills are merely glazed over in our elementary schools, but this curriculum provides a much greater level of rigor. We've also chosen to use Saxon Math. The spiralized approach of Saxon Math and its reinforcement of concepts has proven to be a good foundation for long-term success for students. For virtue, we have chosen to use Core Essentials, a character education program that focuses on a monthly character value that teaches children, staff, and families to do 3 things: treat others right, make smart decisions, and maximize potential. This program invites parents to be involved personally with their child's growth and development through monthly communications and take-home activities, and these 3 core values will become the very fabric that knits our school together, since we will expect the board and the staff to live it out daily. Education is not one-dimensional. You can't just focus on one aspect of the child and not nurture the other. It takes focus on both the head and the heart to produce a student that is whole and complete and ready to face any challenge. In the words of the late, great Rita Pearson, learning sometimes occurs because someone insists that you recognize excellence in yourself. We want children not to just go through an education system, but to be fully educated. We believe that our curriculum, our school, and our network of communities can accomplish that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time we have 25 minutes for the board in terms of any questions and then for them to respond. So what questions do people have about this application?
I had two questions about it. The first was the decision to stay at 216 after year 2 as far as enrollment growth. And the second was the 90 minutes per day set aside for ELA. Seems a little bit much. And I write for a living. That's a lot for me.
Actually, it's required in
It's
some
required?
in some cases, yeah. Third grade for sure, and kids who are retained in third for fourth, it's required.
Almost like it's not enough.
Yeah, and it may not be enough, yes. I have a couple of things, clarification issues. One is, I was a little confused about with the lunch thing. It said when the vendors are there, kids who get free reduced would get free lunch. What are the vendors there every day? Like, what happens on the days the vendors aren't there? And then there was something about a cold meal that's available to kids who don't bring their lunch, or I just need to get some idea of what that was about. I'm a little confused about the building plan because it seems like you have leases on 2 places, and so I'm a little confused about what's the implication of that. I think those were. Oh, I will say this: I was here last year, obviously, when we looked at this application, and our biggest concern was the issue with middle school, and so I'm really pleased to see that you've addressed that that concern. Any other questions?
You both hit upon 2 of the questions I had. I guess I want clarification. I'd like some clarification on the moving forward with Goodall Consulting, what the relationship there is, assuming if you go open, is that an ongoing relationship? I see in the budget there's a student accounting operations fee. I'm wondering if that's what that is. And just clarification on that, that's all. And your class sizes, just to confirm, are in the neighborhood of about 24, 25. So, and same question, why? 202. There's no growth in those grade levels in years 3, 4, 5, which ironically makes me think, what's the compelling need? If there's, I'm not saying that there's not, but like it should maybe be interesting that they couldn't grow some of that. So.
Eric,
I wanted to just understand the rationale for math goals going down. So year 1 and 2, the goals are higher for 3rd grade than 8th grade, but in English everything escalates in that kind of normal trajectory. Just some clarification. I also, given the the target population, I'm wondering about the board diversity. I'm wondering about the outreach plan. I saw the outreach plan for English language learners included a large volunteer group that included people of diverse backgrounds. I'm wondering if any of those people are proposed for the board or anything like that, and just how the board plans to appeal to students of color, given what seems to be, and it may not be, I want to clarify, some absence in that diversity.
any other questions?
Yeah, I just had a few questions. One is, when I'm looking at the Articles of Incorporation, I noticed that the religious box is checked, so I wasn't sure why that was checked on the Articles of Incorporation. And also on the finance area, I wanted to just talk about, it looked low for the elective teacher, because everything was $11,000, which was very low for an elective teacher. And also just expand on the student accounting and operations fee of $155,000 and what all that includes. Maybe comment on the utilities of $35,000. That seems very low for the size of the facility. And then also the $10,000 that you have budgeted for PD seems very low, given that you're going to use Amplify and the CKLA training. So just if you could comment on those.
I saw the electives. I saw it too, and I think they're part-time, or they're down in the budget to be part-time. So I wasn't sure how that. it looked like the teacher assistants and the elective teachers were part-time, so I was curious as to how that works in the schedule. And then I also noticed that there's not a counselor. And I know, given the way the world is right now, I would consider, I would think that that would be something that you might want to consider inside the budget, because teachers will have enough to do with dealing with everything in the classroom, and the administrators and everything we're not trained for the type of thing that counselors do and have to deal with the kids these days. As the officer, one of the board members mentioned all the things that are happening in the world for kids today. Just, I would think through that.
Okay, you want to address some of those things for us, please?
Those were a lot of questions altogether, so if I leave something out, then please prompt me. I would appreciate that. I'm going back to the things that you brought up, Ms. Turner, about, what was your first question?
Lunch?
Lunch. Yes, the vendors will not be present. It's not going to be like a food truck scenario or anything, but we will be contracting with vendors outside. The lunches will be brought in and then served there to the students on site.
Would that be every day? Like I
Yes,
couldn't tell.
it will be daily.
Okay,
Yes,
so
it will be daily.
So
yes.
whatever vendor is there, that's who the free kids will get that lunch.
Yes.
Okay.
The reason why we put that cold lunch is what happens if a vendor can't provide service that day that we've contracted with. So we will provide a cold lunch, whether it has to be a Lunchable or something along those lines. We have to have a backup plan, so that would be a backup plan, which actually would cost less than what our vendor cost would be.
Are you not participating in the USDA?
No.
Okay, so you don't have those required. You could go
But
Lunchable.
we've been able to contact vendors, and actually, I think we plan on something like $4 a student.
Yes.
But we actually have it to where we've gotten some vendors down to $3 a student. Subway's willing to do a portion of the sandwich and chips, and then we would provide milk. And obviously, the reimbursement program that they have on the upper level, we'd be able to participate in that. But we've also budgeted as if we weren't getting the reimbursement as well.
Anthony, when you speak, if you don't mind speaking in the
I
mic
apologize.
so the world can hear you.
Absolutely, sorry. And I'm Anthony Rodriguez with Goodall Consulting.
Okay, the 200, and why did we max out at 216 for our second year? We're still transitioning a lot between first year and second year, and then we're adding in 8th grade, so that's already an addition there. We've got plenty of support, obviously, from our numbers and stuff, and we are allowed to grow by 25% per year. So we could petition then to increase those numbers if we need to. Okay, and you have questions about the Goodall Consulting contract?
Yeah, just
Working
curious
with
what that
them?
ongoing relationship is.
They are
after.
who we are contracting with for our accounting service, Power School, our payroll. They're just are taking care of all the money, the financials, helping us with audits and other reports, so we make sure that they're done correctly and they're into you all on time. Marketing as well. They've already helped us do a great job in tapping into different areas and reaching different families between counties from Alexander to Catawba, as well as Caldwell, and our demographics show that as well.
So that was the like for year one, the 155, and then
Yes.
it went up 170.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
And that price covers things like the Link system and some of the other computer programs that we don't have to purchase, but they've already got and they can utilize and do that for us.
Yeah, the schools get billed. Just to clarify, the schools obviously get billed at the beginning of the year for Link, but those are things that we would be able to cover as we go along, so that they don't have to get a brunt end of that cost. And then a lot of obviously the startup of securing facilities and going through that process, as you can see in the application, getting them in touch with certain vendors, and things like that. So the board has a comprehensive list to be able to choose from and be prepared to open. And so this board has done a great job.
Can you clarify that question that Ms. Gerger asked about the religious comment?
That is education. I don't know why.
I don't know why that's on there. We are not. We plan to be a public school. We are open to all faiths and everybody. We want everybody to feel welcome in our schools.
Yeah.
So that must have been a typo somewhere.
Yeah, but you want to get that fixed because that will become a problem for you.
And,
Thank you, Ms.
and we sent in our IRS paperwork recently and got back, and they asked for a copy of the North Carolina charter. I guess they're being more specific now. So everything was checked on that end in terms of education. So there shouldn't be a conflict, but we'll double check to make sure.
Because that could turn out later on to be an issue.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, Mr. Eldridge, you had some questions as well.
I just point out that it may be worth looking into counseling for students.
Yes,
Yeah,
that is a heart and desire of mine. And that's one of the reasons we have a social worker on our board who has extensive experience working with and counseling children as a social worker and interventionist in the school system, as well as Jessica Smith. She's also, she's certified in interviewing and working with children and understanding children from all different types of situations that would be able to encounter. We would like, that is a goal, to be able to provide, absolutely. But until we can afford it financially, we've got people in place, and we've also got people with those skills on our community outreach team and clarifying too on that community outreach, because I know Mr. Sanchez brought that up, is how we would be able to reach people of all backgrounds and ethnicities. That is a broad group. I've got people who are bilingual, who are willing to come and even be interpreters if we need to at our school, that are on there. There are people that want to help, but they just don't have the time and the hours to put in to be a board member. And some of them, and I know this because I've extended the offer to several of them, but the thing with high capacity people is that they're also usually involved in all these other things that require high capacity. But that is certainly a heart and desire of our board. It's my desire that every child feels welcome at our school and feels valued there. So we're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure they transition in very well and to get the resources they need.
Given what the whole high capacity thing, I want to go back to what Mr. Eldridge said. What we are seeing, particularly this year, is very high needs for emotional support for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And while you have a lot of people who have those skills, you're depending on volunteers for things that need to be addressed now. And I think maybe under other circumstances that might work. Right now, I can tell you straight up, that's not going to work.
Kelly was just mentioning the experience that we have within that on the board to be able to find that talent. Obviously, there are other funds that are available through federal, I'm not talking about ESSER, but other federal funds that are available that would be able to fund that, because this will be a Title I school based on information and data that we've already received. And so to speak to that I think that's an opportunity that we can use, and whether it is, depending on the amounts or whatnot, whether it has to be a contracted in the first year and then move to a full-time position. I know I'm working with another very small rural school in North Carolina, and they were just able to bring on someone full-time because that need is so high. So that's definitely something that could be addressed with this funding, which is not included. I know the federal funding is not included in the budget that we're producing today. And Mr. Sanchez, to speak to the intentional the intention of this board to have a diverse board, one of the things that we spoke about is we have already set locations for our bus stops. They are intentional based on the communities that we wish to serve. So there are multiple communities. Kelly can speak to those specific communities of need, not only just the Oak Hill area, which has a high percentage of need with kids on bus rides for over 3 hours a day, but also the different cities and what we're looking at. Or smaller cities.
I'm not being critical when I say this. I'm only providing from my experiences. Like year one, you have a curriculum coordinator, and I'm not sure what your teaching staff, the experience of your teaching staff, or who your administrator is, or what their skill set is. But I mean, in my experience, especially in the last few years, if we don't take care of them socially and emotionally first, doesn't matter what we're teaching them sometimes in the classroom. So I really would push to say that you may want to really consider having support for the students and for the staff with regard to a counseling position. I strongly believe that, more so now than I probably would have 5 years ago.
Yeah, I'll echo that sentiment as well, and I appreciate the skill set that your board members have. That is awesome. I've got an awesome board for my school as well, but I can't count on them to be in my school every single day to work with kids. And that's what this is needed for.
One of the things that I think is a huge benefit of the character education program is to help with that socio-emotional learning how to handle conflict, learning how to communicate effectively, learning how to make smart decisions. In my experience in church ministry alone, I spent a good bit of my time counseling with parents and families myself. So that is something that, and I'm part-time at my church, so I have a very flexible schedule that I can set on my own hours and stuff, so I feel like I can also assist with that as well.
But we're going to take care of that through Title funding.
Right, and he was reminding me, we're also going to take care of that through Title I funding as well.
Yeah, can I switch that?
Feel free.
I don't want to belabor the topic of child nutrition, but I'm trying to play with the numbers as I'm looking at the budget. I'm not understanding it. Am I hearing that you'll have 60% of your students that you're targeting to be free and reduced lunch? You're going to have a 250 student population on day one.
No, 192 on day one.
192.
First year, yes.
62% of that
660, yeah.
at $3, at $3+, but that's not including milk a day.
That doesn't, that include, we're able to include, oh, sorry. No,
Okay.
go ahead, don't apologize.
Maybe the numbers do work then. So that's the clarification I need. It's 60% of the total population, you're going to pay for them to have breakfast and lunch, or just lunch? Lunch. No breakfast.
No breakfast, no.
Every single day.
Every single day,
including milk.
All 185 days of school that will include milk, and then those who can afford the lunches, we will make those lunches at $4. So then those lunches, we will make $1 off of those lunches to help offset any deficit that we might have that's accumulated. Now, we don't expect that everyone who can, who can afford lunch or that doesn't qualify for reduced lunch is going to order lunch either. We did not make that assumption. That's why you see the numbers that we do currently.
And then they're going to get a reduced cost? Or
And if they're reduced, it's $1.50. That's the lowest that we were able to get it so that we can make it work. And we expect about an 80, I think it was about an 86-14% split. And we actually erred on the side of having more students receive free lunch rather than reduced, because we knew, based on where our intention was, that we're not going to be similar to the district schools, which can draw lines to ensure a certain percentage.
So, I'm sorry, can I say this line of question for a second?
Oh, feel free.
So, it's a pretty big part of the population, and I understand it's part of the mission of this board. So, when I ask questions, I'm not in any way doubting that you guys are trying to build a school that serves these children. I'm wondering how you're going to ascertain all that information to do all that vetting, but that's not really what I'm asking. When it comes to not breakfast, you have 60% of your kids who are economically disadvantaged. A very high percent of them are probably food insecure, and they're going to come in not having had food for 10 to 15 hours or whatever it is from their last meal. What's the plan for that?
So, obviously that is a situation, and right now with a smaller school, the capacity is very hard to provide another program to do that. And, obviously with the federal free and reduced lunch program, that is a big haul. That's a reimbursement program. So that's very hard to haul for a school in the beginning. Additionally, one of the programs that, we mentioned, obviously, kids will not go out without food. With the community that we've leveraged, with the relationships that we have, we do have a very big kind of donor base that Kelly and her team have leveraged, but we don't rely on those things. Additionally, we do have extra, obviously, set aside the budget in the other column. This is to be able to provide snacks to kids in the morning. So being able to specifically go through and intentionally have snacks for kids in the morning, if they are, whether it's a bottle of water a day. A lot of schools, I'm sure you're just learning, kids can bring snacks during snack time in the morning, and a bottle of water. You're right, many kids cannot provide that. Those are things that we would be able to provide through what we have.
I'm just concerned that based on the last couple of answers towards Ms. Elger's question, mine, and the racial diversity piece, and I'll just speak freely on this, that I'm wondering whether, especially in a rural community, and I reside in a rural community where your board speaks volumes of like who you're saying is in the room of making decisions, in the room where it happens, so to speak. And that some of these pieces, which don't need to all be completely fleshed out, things get figured out. Do you have the correct voices in that room to say, hey, the socio-emotional support, the food, the outreach plan, all of these things, as we think about reaching a diverse group of people, that we have a board that has that type of outreach and resembles the community in which we reside? And I guess that's the question I have.
Hello, sir.
Hey.
So, yes, sir, we are strategically and intentionally reaching the diverse groups that we are intended to serve, to include offering, suggesting, going visiting our Latino churches, and we are inviting them, the bilingual folks, to come out and be a part of our sitting group. Also, we are attracting and trying to reach at risk. I'm calling them, normally they would be considered at-risk children in the Communities in Schools program. However, we've chosen to call them at-promise children. Promise that we will make sure to provide equality in education any way possible, shape, or form, and that you will have the support that you needed to provide emotional, strategic support for you wherever you are in life. We are reaching out to our local shelter homes. We're building and establishing relationships with our churches so that our churches can know the language that we're speaking with our core essentials and values, teaching our children to treat one another right, teaching them the value and the purpose in life, also teaching them coping skills and mechanisms that can benefit them throughout the duration of their life. And so we're reaching out to our shelter homes as well, and we are reaching out to our local homeless shelters as well to try to reach those kids wherever they are. So we do have the church, we have all of those positions in place.
One of the meetings that Carrie helped set up and provide in the community, we actually reached out to the Kwanzaa shelter for women, is that correct? For families, to get them involved and actually sign our, get them in the intent to enroll forms and get that commitment from those communities. If you look at the application, we went intentionally into those communities. Then we placed bus stops intentionally in those communities. So there's already intention that is there. There's already set bus stops. By setting those, you're going to attract that community around them. And that is, that transportation is a massive issue. You have a higher percentage that actually do have vehicles in the area, but being able to set those community bus stops are very important.
I'm sorry.
To Mr. Sanchez's point with the cafeteria, the school that I'm at currently, we used to use vendors, and the price got out after a while. The price was uncontrollable, like that it wasn't working out for the vendors, and so they had to raise prices. That's one thing. Two was the quality of the food. That was couldn't always be guaranteed. So I'm not going to speak for any school system, but I was approached and worked with the school system nutrition, Chatham County Schools Nutrition, and we now partner with them. So I will tell you that they have been incredibly good to us, and we plan on applying for using the FDA school nutrition program. So just something for you to consider.
That is awesome. So you are very lucky. We did reach out. They don't have the capacity right now at the local level to be providing meals. With another school that we've worked with, Miss Kroger probably knows, in Union County, trying to connect with Union County and their lunch. There was an initial letter that was sent to get signed, and they backed out. They backed out because they just didn't have the capacity right now with staffing shortages and things like that. But that's something that we did intend originally, but that door was shut pretty quickly. That's something that this board can revisit as time goes on. But we've already identified most of the vendors.
Just plan on vendors
going up. Oh, absolutely, yeah. Especially with the way inflation.
I had also asked about the building. We're coming up on the time, and I had asked about the 2 leases and where are you actually going?
There's one lease, so we have one lease in there, but we have 2 certificate of occupancies. So one is a backup facility. We were waiting for the local Oak Hill Rortons or the Oak Hill development. Actually won that building at an auction and their intention is to give that to the school. But as you see in year 3, our rent goes up. That's because we intend to expand into the Oak Hill School building that's there right next to the Ruriton building, which is where we're going to start off. So Mr. Machado came and toured the site facilities, but we start in that building and then we slowly move over to the other buildings as we expand. So as you say, in terms of capacity, with the 216 cap, we intend to expand, but it's good to set a culture as early as possible with the school, obviously. And that was when we went and talked to the board, and we had suggested, look, your numbers are great, especially at the lower levels. They wanted to set the tone first and make sure that they're successful at what they're doing, and then grow slower, and then come back to you if they are ready to expand after that.
I did visit that campus, and it has 3 buildings on a very beautiful campus, and the 2 that I went through are definitely able to be occupied. So again, they're in as good a shape as any accelerated application I've seen.
Just one other thing that I wanted to add to the lunch program, the gaps that you were talking about, referencing these children that may not have a meal through the evenings or whatever. Our churches and the communities have already reached out when that was part of the LEA, and we were doing backpack programs to fill those gaps. And so we were recognizing through the school what the need was, and we were fulfilling those with the local communities through the churches. And I just wanted to be sure you knew that.
That's good to know.
Hello again. I want to address 2 things. Number 1, I have been in the school system for, not as a full-time employee, but volunteer work, interims, substitute teacher. In the last 2 years, it saddened me and disheartened me to see 35, 36, 37 students in a classroom since they have consolidated some of our schools due to a deficit in their budget. So my question is this. I know we're on the fast track. It is so important that our children get this opportunity for the simple reason that some of our children are on the bus 3 hours a day, every day. They go through all the stops. We talk about being hungry. I've seen them come to school in kindergarten and 1st grade, public school, not private school, with nicotine in their hair, hungry, not ready to study, not ready to be there all day. We can alleviate that with our charter school and some of these students. We can give them the opportunity that they so deserve. Also, we have, at Oak Hill, when Oak Hill was open, Food Line, Walmart, we had both of those guys that donated snacks to our school. A child did not go hungry. I can promise you, no child at Oak Hill Charter School will go hungry because our community needs this so badly. Thank you for your time.
Okay, at this time, you have 10 minutes for your closing statement.
Thank you. First of all, I want to express our sincere gratitude for all the work you as a board put into reviewing our application and taking the time to meet with us today. We consider it a privilege that our leadership as a board and our county is being reviewed as a possible location for a brand new charter school. That is exciting for us. This is an opportunity our county has never had. Second, we have intentionally sought the opinion of our residents, specifically parents, through a survey, online engagements, support letters, face-to-face meetings, and have found overwhelming support in both enthusiasm and financially for our charter school. To date, we have 243 intent to enroll forms from parents and guardians, and we are just under a year away from our target opening date. With a maximum of 192 students for our first year, this is fantastic. Our county has many needs in grades K-8. Test scores in math and ELA barely meet the state average for proficiency, and very few options are available to provide our families with school choice. We want to change this and have the opportunity to be the rising tide that lifts all boats. We have a vision to create a school that seeks to nurture both aspects of a child's needs, the head and the heart. We believe in this mission so much so that we look at this school as not just a school but a family. A family brings comfort to its members and supports to each other through thick and thin, and yet provides boundaries and direction for its children to grow. This was carefully considered as we chose Core Essentials curriculum for our character education program. We want to create a school environment where every student, parent, teacher, staff person, and even the principal knows that they are valued. We believe this curriculum will provide an essential component for their socio-emotional learning and will reinforce the power of connection and the importance of relationships to a child's education. We have assembled an incredible team. Partnering with Goodall Consulting, leaning on their guidance has been invaluable to our application process. We will continue this relationship and utilize our wisdom, resources, and expertise as we seek to properly follow all procedures and state guidelines as we move forward. In keeping with our core values of our character education program, we will pursue excellence. Another essential component to our team is our partnership with our local community organizations, such as the Oak Hill Ruetan Club. We have also put together a list of diverse individuals in the form of our community outreach team that are willing to volunteer their skills and time to meet the needs of our school. From plumbing and painting to tutoring and bilingual volunteers, we have people willing to help in every area. This networking has not only helped us get the word out about the potential charter school, but also provided an avenue for continued financial support. We want to be a team player with our community both now and in the future in order to ensure the success of our school. Lastly, as a board chair, I am so proud of this board of directors in which I have the privilege of serving. Each one is uniquely gifted with a wealth of experience that will be essential to providing leadership to our school. We have a former county commissioner and banker, a principal, an accountant, a school social worker, a law enforcement officer specially certified to be an advocate for children, and a Toys for Tots director, a technician with a wide range of experience working with mechanical and facility applications, a volunteer coordinator, event planner, a networker with organizations and parents, and a retired teacher who has worked in multiple environments from an urban city to a rural district school and with children from all backgrounds and ethnicities and abilities. Some are parents, some are educators, some are business professionals, but we are all invested and passionate about providing a refreshing approach to education for our families in our county and adjacent counties. In closing, we want you to know that the desire of our board is to create an environment for children to learn that is truly unique, safe, supportive, and challenging with high expectations, both personally and academically. We want our families to have a great experience, to feel connected, and to feel a part of a bigger family for learning, not just an education system. We want our children to be prepared to embrace the challenges of today and to prepare them for success tomorrow. We believe that our Back to Basics curriculum, Core Knowledge, Saxon Math, and Shirley Grammar, coupled with Core Essentials, the character education program, can do just that. Thank you for your time and all you do as an advisory board to help give parents more options for education and to support charter schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so what are you guys thinking?
I definitely see the need is there. I see that they understand that the need is there. They're committed to getting the work done. Just want to make sure the kids are fed. And the facilities part, the need for that or the requirement is there. So I would be in favor. I feel their heart. I really do.
I've been impressed with a couple things. Their community outreach, we don't always see groups that have connected at this level with their community to the point where the community is actually really out. They say, you know, they're going to support us. These people have raised $15,000 with people who are willing to do barbecues for them. So they have definitely connected in their community. Another thing was that we don't see often was not only did they do interest forms, they had people who did intent to enroll forms, which is a much more solid indication that the support for student support is there. I think they have an ed program that'll work. I am a little concerned about the food. I'd like to see that shored up a little bit better. Hungry children are not on my list of favorites. But overall, I would support this application.
I agree. I feel the desire and the genuineness of their reports. I do have a concern with the counselor issue as well, just living it every day now, like you said, within especially the last 5 years. Also, a concern that I have is the charter speaks a lot about their character ed program, and they talked a lot about that character ed program. And in the application, it said that there would be monthly reports of behaviors from the teacher to the principal, but it didn't really go into who's responsible for teaching this character program. Is that going to fall on the teachers? And with that being such an integral part of who they are, that's a bit of a concern for me. But however, I would definitely support. I feel their genuineness and think that this is something that they can definitely do.
Yeah, I think the application and what I heard today checks off a lot of boxes for me. I definitely think there's a need as a part-time homeowner in that area. I'm always perplexed why there aren't more charter schools in that area, and I think it's desperately needed. So I think it meets the acceleration guidelines. I would have liked to heard a little bit more from the board itself as opposed to the consultant, because we give the charter to the board. But that is not to suggest that the consulting group hasn't done a great job. It sounds like they've done a really outstanding job of preparing this board and guiding them in a lot of right ways. But I always like just to hear more from the board. I would like to hear a little bit more about the staffing. I share the concerns about the counselor and maybe some other positions too. We didn't have a time to talk about the teacher assistants and things like that. And having been on a board and now as a head of school myself, I know what hopefully value I brought when I was a board member, and then I realized how much time I actually had to bring it on a day in, day out basis, and it was limited. So I don't think you can just rely on the goodwill of your board members to fill some of these important gaps at the school level. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the education plan, character education plan. We used core knowledge at my school, so I'm intimately familiar with that, but I'm always interested to hear how other people described it. So the 25 minutes didn't give us the chance to get into that, but I think they came well prepared today, and again, I think it checks off a lot of boxes.
Yeah, I would like to just add, there is definitely a compelling need in this county for this school, and I feel like the improvement from last year's application was definitely noticeable, and so I want to commend you for making a lot of the recommended changes that you had, and you've made those changes. The other thing that I would like to just learn more is just expand on more is the education program, as far as, you're going to K-7, and core knowledge is really foundation based, and how you intend to really address those older kids and making sure that they have that foundation, because I think that's hard to do with core knowledge. And so I would have liked to have heard a little bit more along those lines with the education plan, along with the character ed piece.
I think Cheryl made some great points about how they've went about cultivating support in the community. You can see the sincerity in the board chair's eyes and comments and just the way she's thinking about it. I appreciate the last comment by the board member of some of the outreach plans. And I also think the rural struggle is real, right? I'm in it, I live it, and a lot of people don't want to take on that challenge because it comes with a lot of other challenges that are specific to that context. I've been in the food world with a startup, And in rural places, it's everybody can jump in. The movie theater was bringing bags of popcorn when we started, and all types of crazy stuff. But it's not sustainable. It doesn't work like that. Not on 185 days with a fixed amount of mouths that need to be fed every single day. It's just a never-ending thing. It seems nice for a week. It seems nice for 2 weeks, and then it's like, where are these guys? Why aren't they here? And then like, well, you know, prices go up and quality goes down. And all this. It needs a much, much better plan. The numbers seem bare minimum too. I think they need to think that out a lot better. It doesn't mean that they won't. Certainly nobody does up front. And I think also in a rural context, everybody knows everybody. And so you're putting your flag out really early with like, this is who we are. And the more you can, it doesn't mean they're on the board, but the more that you can demonstrate, and I would love to hear more about it, maybe they're doing it really, really, really well. The more you can demonstrate the diversity of the board, the better you are in terms of diversifying your student population. That's the way it runs. If we didn't have Miss Robertson when we started, we wouldn't have the population we would have wanted, even though I taught in that community for a long, long time. And so I would love to hear more about that. I would be more in support of an interview than a direct route to the state board, but that's just my thought, because some of these things I'd like to hear more about.
I also want to kind of add to that, being in a rural area with no other charter schools around, it's going to feel lonely sometimes, you know. So I would say that do some research for some schools that are similar and create partnership, and you take a look at the way they've staffed and the way that they've done some of their, some of the things that they've done in their budget, and it may help out a little bit, because I know putting this stuff, I know you had consultants working with me and they've been around some other schools, but I also know that what really works inside of the school once it gets going, if you find someone that's similar to you, might really pick up some cool ideas too. So maybe you can reach out then.
We have a mentor relationship established with Revolution Academy, and they use the same curriculum.
Good.
They will be mentoring and working with our curriculum coordinator as well to help children's transition in those older grades, and teaching those strategies that's working for them.
Okay, is somebody prepared to make a motion? I'm kind of hearing some people would like a second interview. I'm hearing some people are ready to go. Where are we?
I also want to hear more.
I'm really on the fence on that, because I feel like yesterday morning we had a similar situation where if we had just a little bit more time, and I say that not to think that they're not going to provide the answers we want to hear. I just kind of want to hear it, and I kind of feel we might be in that position, kind of like we were yesterday, where if we submit to them our questions, they respond, this second interview could be very short. Like, if you've checked 10 boxes already, or you've checked 9 of the 10 already, the interview questions that we submit might just be but at the same time, I'll tell you, I think it's a solid application. I think it's a solid group. And
Chair, can I say a few words?
Sure.
Okay. I think this is a very solid application. I wasn't here last year, so I don't know what the application looked like or anything. I can only base it off this, but everything I've read through the application and what they've said, they're facing a lot of issues that many of our traditional public schools are facing right now with school support staff, hiring counselors, psychologists, all that other stuff. So it's not something that is going. They can provide a plan for that, but everybody is struggling with that across the state right now. So I don't know if questions are really going to solve that problem, other than saying that they're going to try to address it the best that they can. As for the meals, I do have concerns with it, but again, it sounds like they have a plan in order, and I don't know what questions we could ask more than, because we really hit that hard here today. I don't know what other this board can get and information from them other than the plan that they've set forth. And then finally, the diversity question is, and I'd love just to have a conversation with Eric and the rest of the board on this one, is I do believe that they need to attract their community there, but looking at the demographics online, less than 10% is African American and Hispanic. And I remember working with charter schools a few years ago, and I'm not going to say which one it was, but a charter school, they lived in similar demographic, and it was rural. and they were working to increase Hispanic outreach, and they were pumped. They increased it by 200%. It was a total of 6 students, because that's how much their Hispanic students were in that community that they could get. So I think at a certain point we have to look at the constraints that they have as a county, where you have only a certain percentage of people that make up the diversity. But I do believe in the plan that they've already executed, and with this one, I don't know what asking more questions will lead than what we've already gotten here.
I think we didn't really get into the ed plan, and there's some,
that is
some
true.
questions about the ed plan.
Yeah.
But when I compare it to movement, we sent movement straight to the state board. Are we in a better or worse position with this school compared to movement? You know, we could have asked a lot of questions of movement. We decided to send them straight to the state board. I don't feel like Oak Hill, you know, it's in any worse position than movement was, and probably should warrant going straight to the state board if that was our decision with movement.
I think the difference for me there is that movement has some track record. They're an operator, and you know, are operating schools that are performing.
And again, some of the questions I'm thinking about too, though, to both of your points, that they have to go through the RTO process. That's going to flesh some of this stuff out as well.
I echo what Todd said about the difference of movement. I also echo what Mr. Friend said about we didn't hear from the board chair as much. And I'm not saying that would change in the second interview, but like some of these questions are resounding. Sometimes people will have, similar to what we had yesterday with the facility backup plan, we ask people to have that. We're asking them on the spot certain things about food. Another interview might give them a month to flesh it out better and provide some more context to that. And then I hear you. I actually looked into the demographics as well when I read it. I think there's a couple context pieces that are important within that. The demographics, as stated, are not the demographic, are not disaggregated in the way of students of color within a low-income setting, which would elevate, I think, those numbers to some level. It may not be a crazy amount, and to your point, it may not be the hugest part of their population, but that's why you got to work at it even more, because it's not as prevalent, because it's not as much, and we had to do that in a way that was very, very different to reach very small subgroups. So I do think it is something you have to actually even be more focused on when the populations are smaller in order to get that 200%, which is 6 kids. So I don't know. I think this is the second round. I think they get a chance to. I love the chat that they've made so much growth, as the board has noted. I think they're in the right place, but I think they ultimately being able to answer more questions on the ed plan and some of the other pieces we said would give them a month to flesh these things out further. That I would then be on board to fully support the school. And speaking for myself.
So maybe we need to work backwards. Maybe the first motion needs to be whether it just goes to
well, and if we could just kind of, I guess I need somebody to make a motion, but if just kind of in general, if people could just say, yes, I'm thinking second interview, no, I'm not thinking second interview, that could help us with what the motion is.
Well, I think a second interview is better than not moving them on.
Yeah, I don't think that's a viable option.
So
I'm not suggesting
they're still in the running.
Yeah.
They still have the opportunity. So the second round would make sense to me. So I move that we move Oak Charter School to come back for a second round.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
We have discussion.
Oh, discussion. Let's forget the discussion.
I would just say we owe it to them to in a very timely manner, get very specific questions that we want them to answer, whether it's on the ed plan or something else. And if we feel that they do a really good job at answering those questions, that I don't foresee this second interview being anywhere near 45 minutes or an hour. But you know, in each of our places where we sit here today, putting that final checkbox on the mark. I think this is a really strong application. And if the motion had been otherwise, I'd vote for it too, so.
I agree, Mr. Fuentes. What you're saying.
Yeah, so let's be, yes.
Okay,
Roll
well, let's take a roll call vote on that motion, please.
Shelley Rowland.
Aye.
Todd Godby.
Aye.
Terry Stoops.
Aye.
Lynn Kroger.
Aye.
Cheryl Turner.
Aye.
Bruce Friend.
Aye.
Hilda Parlay.
Aye.
John Eldridge.
Aye.
Eric Sanchez.
Aye.
Okay, so
Okay.
the motion carries, and we're inviting you back for next month. You will get a set of questions of things that we need answered. And you'll have 10 business days to, is it business days or just 10 calendar?
10 calendar days, so once the board, so this is a little bit of a new process, both for the board and for people that have worked with us before in the office. So the board will work to get you specific questions and any specific request, like documentation. We are asking that you submit only responses to those materials, and we will get it to the board. You will have 10 calendar days to do that once we get the request to you. And we'll try to get that as soon as we can. Okay. Did I miss any other comments for the board, anything?
You want to bring?
I guess a procedural question, and whether it's for the office or for our board. I mean, I'm really impressed too that the entire board came all the way from Lenore today, and want to be respectful that they're volunteers and have jobs and things like that. Do we need all of them back here, or can we do this by conference call? What's the thought?
I don't think we need them all back, and we could certainly talk about a virtual option too, if you were okay with that.
Yeah, if the questions are pretty succinct, then, or answers to the questions are pretty succinct, then.
Not that you're not welcome, but.
It is a smidgen.
Right.
Yeah.
We appreciate your consideration.
Okay, then we will definitely talk to you next month.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah, we definitely. Yeah, let's take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and finish up.
Thank you.
Johnson Prep is requesting that we reconsider. And so their attorneys are going to talk to us about what it is they exactly are asking us to do.
Thank you. Donna Rasco, counsel for Johnston Preparatory Academy Board of Directors. And I've been asked to indeed come and share with you my client's further discussion and considerations after the meeting yesterday. Brooke Holmes, the president, you might recall, I think, described their status pretty accurately at the end of the meeting. They acknowledged they're a pretty experienced board. As you probably saw, a number of them hold positions in the Johnston County community, elected officials and whatnot. They appreciated the process that you went through, and I think understood the concerns that you had, though they were disappointed with the outcome. And certainly they also were attentive to the conversations that you all had and conversations they've had with the Office of Charter Schools about options and how to move forward. Their concerns about the growth in their community. I didn't know Johnston County was the fastest growing county in North Carolina. I know it now. Drive through and all that kind of good stuff. But those circumstances and concerns for them are real. And you heard that Ms. Holmes is on the board, is president of the board for Johnston Charter Academy. They're actually meeting tonight. We've got a principal's report already, and we see the numbers. So I think they'll continue to have those conversations. So their thinking is how to best move forward, and certainly wanting to work with the Office of Charter Schools, with this board, and take the appropriate next steps. There clearly was some confusion or misunderstanding, and it's not entirely clear how that came about. They came to you yesterday with the expectation that they'd have the opportunity to have a full interview in the normal course, but again, they heard your conversation and they appreciate that. Their request was whether you might reconsider or rescind, and I will defer to your counsel as to the appropriate step. I think it might be reconsider your vote and give them the opportunity to withdraw their application. Again, their expectation is that they would move forward either with Johnston Charter Academy or with another application at a later time, again, based on the input that you gave them about how to address the concerns that they see in Johnston County to move forward. So that's their request.
Okay, if we were to vote to allow them to withdraw or reconsider, however it is we have to do this, is the understanding that this application then is as if it was not done this cycle at all?
That's correct.
At the earliest, they would, if they decide they want to go forward with that application, they do it in the next cycle?
That's correct.
Okay, and so I guess my understanding is that we would have to vote to reconsider, and then we vote. I'm a little confused about what it is we have to do.
That's correct. First, the motion for reconsideration, and then a motion to act on whatever decision that you choose on reconsideration.
May I interject there? What my client is prepared to do is that if you do a motion to reconsider and that takes you back to your prior vote, I'm authorized to report to you that they would like to withdraw their application.
Okay. So what am I hearing from the board is, are we prepared to do that?
I recuse.
You get lunch today, though.
You said there is a precedent for this.
There's precedence for people to withdraw. We've never done a reconsider before, but there is precedent for people to withdraw their application, yes.
I'll make a motion to do it. I move to reconsider the board's denial of Johnston Academy's fast track application as the application is requested to be withdrawn by the applicant. I further move to accept the Johnston Academy withdrawal of their fast track application with the understanding that the application will be resubmitted under the traditional application process for this committee's review.
A second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? See, I remember this time. Any discussion? Okay, Ashley, let's take it
Who was
off.
the second? I didn't. Terry. All right, Shelley Buller.
Aye.
Todd Godby.
Aye.
Terry Stoops.
Aye.
Lynn Kroger.
Aye.
Cheryl Turner.
Aye.
Bruce Friend.
Aye.
Hilda is recused. John Eldridge.
Aye.
Eric Sanchez.
Aye.
Okay, it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, so now are you gonna withdraw the thing?
I'm authorized to report to you that my client would like to withdraw their application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need to make a motion on vote on that?
No, they can just withdraw. We don't have to do anything.
Didn't your motion say that?
Okay,
You
so
accepted the withdrawal?
it looks to me like we're ready to eat. Yes, I need a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor? I don't think we need to discuss that one. Aye. Opposed?
Thank
The
you.
newbies
We do
got
have
off
lunch.
easy this round.
Each second, make sure that room's open now.
Yeah.
I knew somebody-
For those of you who this is your first meeting, this was real easy. Like, I just need you to know, this is not the norm.
Don't scare away.
Yeah, you leave those, yeah. Leave your binders here. If you have any expense documentation, just leave it in it. We'll,
I just need to send it.
See what they, what
I can send this via
what you-
scan, right?